We're good to go.
All right. Thanks for everybody being here today. We'll have our meeting, and before I forget, if in case anybody needs to leave, on the agenda, our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, the 23rd of January. So,
Yeah.
all right, as I said, Dan's got the agenda in front of you, and then he's also put the minutes from, or sent out the minutes from October 24th, which I think were sent out. If everybody had an opportunity to look at those, if there are any questions, we could entertain those. If not, I'd entertain a motion to accept the minutes from 24 October.
I move they be accepted as is.
Have a move, a second. Keith, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. Next item on the agenda is airport manager reports. Mike, as I look back at our discussion last time, I know we talked about the taxiway A, the fencing projects, the FAA tower, and the 220 project. If in your reports, we could touch on each of those.
Okay,
Great.
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we, let's go to the financial report first. This report is for October and had a good month. Football season, which helped us out a good bit. We had good avgas sales, good KA sales. Our airport fees excelled because of the football season. Because we have a lot of jets, because of that, we're able to charge for the ramp fees at a higher rate and landing fees as well. And then, of course, that helped us in the fuel sales as well. Airport services in line, in the expense side, maintenance in line, and administrative overhead charges that stays in line. Other general administration, do you know what that is? I meant to ask you, Devin, on that 68. It's short. I'm not sure what.
Yeah, those are essentially other Athens-Clarke County fees. So like our fleet, what we're paying in for fleet, that sort of thing.
Okay, it was just, the actual was lower, so I just didn't know. So in the end, total revenues over expenses, 104,000. So we're in the right direction. Operations, we had close to 4,000 operations, which was good for the month. I'm anxious to see what November's going to be because we had a really good football season, football weekend rather, with Ole Miss. That was a pretty big game for us. Not quite as busy as Tennessee, but very close. As far as the airplanes that we had parked here, we had a couple ground stops as well. And so it was a good weekend for us. We made about a little over 200,000 in the 3 days gross, and had about 130 airplanes parked. So it was a good day, good weekend. Any questions on the financials? Moving on to capital improvement projects. So we are in the middle of the fencing project right now. When you came in, I think you probably saw the fence on the right. So that's the wildlife fencing that we have going up in phase 1. We've got it in that area. We've got it down this road here, as you're going toward the farming facility. And then also off of Lexington, you'd see it there as well on the approach to runway 2. On the 220 project, we already installed fencing, if you remember, on the other end, 220 inch. And so that, and at some point we'll be doing the row where we cleared the trees. We'll be putting fencing in there as well. We did have to clear, I think I told you, we did have to clear some trees, some additional trees.
Okay.
But that's going to be on us. He's not going to charge us much.
Okay.
I asked Lou. Unfortunately, it's not in the scope, but it wasn't a whole lot that had to be done, but
Okay.
it had to be done
Mhm.
because, we took a rangefinder, we went to the middle, of the runway center line, and then we went out 400 feet for the ROFA. And it was close, but it was 20 feet shy in some areas, just a little area
Huh.
that we had to really get rid of. And so, of course, you know, they have all the equipment. They did the ROFA theory for us, so it wasn't anything big
That's good.
that they had to do. So that's coming along really, really well. And if you saw the quality they did, you know, that was, I think they're doing a great job.
It looks good on the, well, I looked at it on the way in.
Did
It
you?
looks good.
Yeah, it's tight.
Is that 10 or 8 foot?
It's 10. I think with the barbed wire up, it's 10, right?
Yeah, it's,
The top of the barbed wire,
um,
I think, or is it 10
Maybe.
plus 2?
yeah, it may be 10 plus.
Yeah.
The barbed wire.
Okay.
I mean, that would be my guess based on what I saw.
Yeah. And let's see, Lou's gonna come out Thursday and look at it.
Okay.
He already did a pay request on it, the other day. He's gonna come out Thursday and look at it,
Okay.
just kind of eyeball it.
When will they be finished? I'm sorry, Mike. I was gonna say, when will they be finished for that project?
I'm thinking they'll probably be finished within the next 6 weeks, probably. It depends on the rain, but 6 to 8 weeks.
Was the requirement also, if there was any erosion underneath the fence where, you know, the ground went down, they had to bring that up to the level?
Yeah,
Fencing touched the ground all the way
yeah,
around?
yeah, no gaps, pretty much.
Yeah,
Where they are, I haven't seen any gaps yet. I know over here, going down this road, there was some iffy parts, you
Yeah, I
know?
remember, would you get toward the ROTC?
Yeah, yeah.
National Guard, yeah.
And I think I have to go back there and see, but I think they took care of that. If not, yes, most definitely, they'll have to take care of
Yeah.
that. Yeah, they will, man, and they'll even dig. That's what we have to do. Every day, we have to go and do perimeter checks, you know, because they'll dig under the fence.
Yeah.
They're good at that.
So that's a SPOS project.
No, this is a state, local
Okay.
project. Yeah. You know, I take it back. I am using some SPOS money for it, for our part. Yeah, but it's not 100% SPOS, I guess I should say. Yeah, it is state, 75% state. And then the other money is coming out of SPOS. Yeah. So, yeah, I guess it's
Yeah.
SPOS.
So what happens, is it 1% or is it 2% of all those projects for street art?
Yeah,
What happens to that money? Do you get
that
that?
one, I didn't have to do that with this project. The bigger projects, yes, and it kind of, sometimes you can put it in there and say you don't want to,
Mm,
for it to be included, because it really isn't a part of it, you know, that kind of project. Sometimes, you know, the American Commission will say, yes, that's good. Sometimes they'll say, no, you're gonna have to do it. I've had it both ways, in different projects.
But you don't get to say, well, I put it in, so now I've got 2% to spend on street art.
No, yeah, not on this project.
Mm.
Some projects I do, yeah. And I think I have some money even in an account that I can do that with.
Yeah,
That's in there that we haven't touched yet. I think that was one of these projects. I can't remember which one it was.
interesting.
Yeah, so maybe we can talk about that too, see if we can
Yeah.
get some of that. I think it was $5,000.
Use it for a sign.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Sign.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking. Yeah. And then the 220 project, that project's about to wrap up. I talked to Josh today. He called me up because he wants to do some survey work out here to do
You said he
the,
had a couple of things under drains or something like that.
Yeah.
Missed.
yeah. For the as-bills, I
Mhm.
finished that up.
Yep.
He's coming out Thursday
Okay.
morning. And I sent an email out to the tower and Russ to let them know to be on lookout for him, to kind of help him around.
Yeah.
And, and then he also wanted to get over there at Taxaway Alpha. And I told him, yeah, have at it. You know, let's get going on that boat.
Yeah.
It's he wants to do some survey on there while he's here.
Okay.
He'll do that Thursday as well. So really, I mean, they still have to do a little bit more grassing, but honestly, you can still close it out because they'll have a whole year to do it with the grassing. If it doesn't take, they'll still have to
Okay.
come back and do it.
That's right. That's right. It's still within the warranty period.
Yeah, yeah. So if we can just get the as-bills,
Yeah.
we should be good to close out. Another thing was, that we have a savings, on that
Yes.
project. And I talked to Lou with GDOT today, and he was saying, if we could, Well, as soon as we can close it out, you can put that savings on one of these projects we're doing now.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, that's great.
yeah. Yeah, either the fencing or taxing. But he
Okay.
wants to do something, you know, apply to something.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that would be good.
I mean, I don't know how much fencing you can get depending on what you got, but it might get you most of the rest of the way
I
there.
know, really, it could be very close.
Yep.
It really could. So I say 220 project, the Alpha project, we opened up bids. ER Snell was the bidder, the lowest bidder at 7 point something, 7.3, maybe, like that.
Yeah.
And so we have about 7.2, you know, that the FAA has available for us to finish it up. So we're very close. Andrew's working, you know, with AR Snell to see if they can find any savings, you know, in the RFP and in the scope of work that they had. And I talked to Josh and he thought that there might be some savings.
Yeah, they were saying that they usually can find some things. They weren't real specific on what he thought they might be able to find, but they said they'd be able to get me an answer before Christmas time, so I'll talk to them again and see if they've made any progress on that.
That's good.
They've done work for us before, haven't they?
Yeah,
They
they
did.
were,
220, sorry, Mike.
no, hey, go ahead, man. We're
Yeah, they
doing this
did the
again.
220. Yeah.
And a wonderful job. I mean, I'm really happy they got it.
No, they have done really good asphalt paving. So, you know, we fought them around with some of the dirt, but I feel like they've got a good understanding now. They can't come back to us and say, well, we didn't realize it was gonna be that wet. You know
Yeah, right.
good and well what the
Yeah.
dirt's like.
Exactly. I agree with
And
you.
they did a really good job with the asphalt. I mean, it's some of the best asphalt paving work that I've seen in a while. It's really good.
That's good. I'm glad. So they got that project. So my next step is, of course, Andrew's working with them. We got to get a conform contract from them. 3 things I got to do, to send to the mayor and commission, which I'm going to do at their February, meeting, which is the first, Tuesday of February. I got to get RSNH's, safety plan approved. I've got to get the, ER Snell conform contract, and I got to get the GDOT, grant. And I got to get those 3 items in front of the mayor and commission to approve, because we want to get going on this in March, the best we can. And, so that's kind of where we are on the Alpha project right now. And, then the other one was self-serve, you said?
FAA tower.
Oh, the tower, okay. I'll talk about the self-serve, I guess. So we opened up bids on the self-serve too. Company, L&T Incorporated out of Lyons, Georgia. It's about 80,000 some odd dollars. So they won the bid on that. At this point in time, I'm gonna send that through, for a signature request, and that'll go to the, attorney and risk, once I get a contract from them. And then a signature by the mayor, then we can get moving on that project. The tower project, that's coming along. It's just been very slow. Of course, they've got so many of those same projects that they're working on. And right now they're going around to different airports doing, the goggle thing and making sure. So they spend a lot of their time on that. But as far as the engineers and everything, I think everything's moving along as fast as it can. They're slowly doing some environmental stuff, in that location out there and making sure that's all good. But right now, it's still looking like about 1.5 to 2, before things really, you really start seeing some activity out here.
The FAA, this tower program is really moving forward in full force in the southeast. I talked to them recently, and they said that they have so much work that the FAA is looking to hire somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 engineers to do all the tower work.
No kidding. I can tell it slowed down because when they started working with other airports, it slowed down big time.
They have a lot on the books right now, and
Right.
they're not staffed to
Okay.
lead it down.
I'm glad you said that. Yeah, they didn't mention that. That's good. But
They're
that
gonna
does
find 40 engineers who are just looking for a job.
They, frankly, they're gonna have a hard time because
Although they can afford me.
they don't pay quite well enough of the market
Yeah.
that they're looking.
Oh, I know.
to buy.
I used to work for the federal government. I know what they think.
You know, does that reflect that a whole lot of towers are sort of out of date? I mean, I'm
Oh,
thinking of the lack of
yes.
elevator in this one.
Oh, yeah,
And now they're trying to catch up?
yeah.
Mhm. Yep.
This
Oh,
was
good.
40 years old. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, plus, I've mentioned this before, but that's not even a site they're considering where it is now.
Yeah.
So if we move that, that gives us an opportunity
Yeah.
to build a nice size hangar, where we could store our maintenance or, and also overnight aircraft and make that a revenue source, big revenue source. So we're excited about that. One thing I will mention too, and this has come up again, it comes up quite a bit, is our beacon, which right now is located on the tower.
Mhm.
It's not very bright, and we get a lot of complaints on that beacon. That is just very, very dim. It's probably one of the worst beacons I've ever seen. And David can attest to that.
I actually came back from the Tennessee game. I flew up there with some friends and came back and established that flew in the RNAV 27
Mhm.
from the final approach fix, staring at the runway, looking for the beacon. You
Good.
can't see it. You can't see it until you're on the ground.
That's crazy.
It's just not there.
Yeah,
Yeah, knowing exactly where to look for it. It's
Yeah.
midnight.
that's just.
It's just not there.
So, and in Rome, we had this big old honking. I mean, it was huge. It was huge. And that's what I was used to. I wasn't used to the small, thing's small, very small. But the first step I'm going to do right now in the interim is to see if maybe there's some kind of electrical issue with it. It's just not putting out the power that it needs. So I'm getting that looked at. But in the meantime, with this new tower, I asked them if they could put a beacon on top of that, just like this one's on top of this. Well, they said no, that they are not putting beacons, airport-owned beacons, so they don't control beacons, airport-owned beacons on their equipment, on their towers anymore. And so that won't happen. Well, I tried to talk them into it, but they pretty much denied me. But with that said, I went to the FAA and another branch. And I asked them, I said, okay, here's the situation, they're putting in a tower. I'm gonna have to find some money, to put a tower up with a good sized beacon. And they said they would fund it for me. I said, okay, so when the tower goes up, we'll do that. Well, now it's getting to the point where it just is, this kind of unsafe. It really is really unsafe, in my opinion, because the tower plays a big part, where the airport's open and that kind of thing, the weather, what the weather is and things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and start a project, I think, with the FAA and GDOT, and I was going to call you.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk a little bit about where I think we could put this. I'm thinking on the other side, where the ASOS is, but anyway, a nice, good tower
Okay.
and a nice quality beacon.
Yeah.
That will really shine well. And I want to get that started. I was going to call you up tomorrow.
Yeah.
and work that
Yeah,
out.
we can definitely talk about that.
Okay.
So, we just hired a new senior electrical engineer, and so getting him on board, so this is definitely something we can.
Okay, that'd be great.
Would this be like just a pole tower, and roughly how high does it need to be?
Well, I don't know, what I'm used to is
I don't know what they do right now, so.
yeah, it's like those radio towers, where you have the four things and they got the crisscrosses and they go all the way up.
Right, yeah,
It's more like that
Uh-huh.
than just a pole going
Yeah,
up.
okay.
It's much sturdier, and I don't want a little big, That first time, I remember when those came out, it was in Paulding County when they built that airport, and I saw this little bitty beacon. I said, what is that? What is that? And they said, it's our beacon. I said, that can't be a beacon. I'm used to these things, And anyway, I don't like these little things.
No, yeah, let's talk, and we'll get that going.
Okay, that sounds good. And the other thing is this, and I'll mention this, I don't want to take too much time up, but I asked the FAA, I said, doesn't it make sense to have a beacon on a tower where it's not blinding, the controllers, And they said, yeah, but we're not doing that anymore. I said, so what do you do? And I knew what they do. I just want to hear it from them. They said, well, if it's off-site, we put blinders up, so that it deflects as it comes around, it won't hit the tower. And I said, well, that kind of defeats the purpose for an airplane in that direction coming in. He won't be able to see it, right? And they went, well, yeah, I guess so. I guess that's right. I said, well, doesn't it make sense just to have it on the tower? Yeah, but we don't do that anymore. We don't do it. I said, okay, I get it. You don't do it anymore. So if we do have a tower, wherever it is, I mean, a beacon, we're gonna have to have some sort of a deflection of the light so that when it comes around, it doesn't hit the tower. It's in the face, you know? So that will be something that has.
So from that regard, the further away from the tower, the better, the smaller the blackout area would have to be.
Yeah,
I guess,
yeah,
right?
yeah, I suppose so,
That's a
yeah.
good point, yeah.
That is a good point. yeah.
Or get your telefence, build your tower right there and put the beacon right next to it, about 10 feet taller than it.
Yeah, there you go. I like that. But anyway,
Will we demolish the old tower?
yeah, yes, they will.
They will.
They will, yeah. Yeah, they take care of that for us. Davin, any marketing?
We've got a women in STEM group from Clark Central coming in today, so they're coming in at 4. So Hannah Miller is going to help lead that, but she also is the only person in operation, so I may need to go and assist that. But and we had a group from Gaines School that came and visited, so we probably had about 60 kids, I would say. So
So has it kind of gotten interest, you think it's gonna keep going with schools, want to do this? or-
absolutely. Sean Carey, who's one of our part-time customer service folks, really has taken ownership with this. He's inviting
I hate when that happens.
Me last. It scares me to death.
more school folks in, so.
Yeah, sounds good.
Do you, I don't know if you planned on talking about it during David's, but do you mind talking about what Hannah's doing? Were you gonna do that, David?
Yeah, well,
Okay. You wanna wait?
any of us can, sure.
Okay, we'll wait till you're,
Oh, unless Davin's gotta go.
No, we've still got plenty of time.
okay. And that's, I think that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, let me talk about that.
I don't know if you want to talk
too.
about that now.
Yeah, I can.
The air show thing.
So,
Devin, you got that map, please?
the air show map.
Yeah.
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 So, we have talked about, you know, on the list that we had created many moons ago, right? The air show. And one of the things was, you know, is it possible to have a large air show? And I kind of already knew the answer, but, you know, I mean, I put on several air shows in Rome, and they were large air shows, but we had plenty of room. We had 1,300 acres to deal with, and we really had no issues. I had one or two houses, I had to go to them and tell them they had to vacate, but I just paid for their time to go to Longhorns with their family. And then they vacated, and I said, sure, we'll be gone for an hour or two, I don't care. But here you gotta vacate a prison and, multiple houses, and it just won't work, unfortunately. So I talked to this air show company that, actually puts on several air shows throughout the United States. And, they put on the Peachtree City Air Show just recently. And, so I talked to Hope down at Peachtree City, and she gave me the name and number of the guy. So I called him up and, had a chat with him and, asked him if he could put together, you know, where these boxes would be. And so he did. And then we discussed it a little bit more, and he just said, you know, it's pretty much almost impossible to have a large air show here in Athens because of all the activity close by the airport with the prison. You know, you've got Lowe's, you know, but there's two ways you could do it. You could go parallel with the main runway, 927, or you could try to do, you know, a little parallel with the secondary runway. But either one is just, it's just too much to handle. You'd have to really educate a lot of folks, and it's really impossible. So, you know, with that said, it's not bad news. It just means we can't have a large air show, and that means you can't have a big jet team like Blue Angels and the Thunderbirds or Snowbirds. But you can still have a good show, you know, with some military aircraft that aren't flying in formation, you know, aren't doing all sorts of things like that. You know, they might fly low on the runway, you know, 1,000 feet above the runway or something like a small military jet. So you can still have a good show, but it wouldn't be anything with a jet team. which is what big draw is most of the time, when you have these air shows, and it brings the crowd in. But, if you do have a crowd, then you got to figure out, okay, where are we going to park? How are we going to shuttle them in? So that's just another piece of it. But that's what I liked about these folks was that they handle everything. They do the parking, they do everything. Really all we would be responsible for is fueling up the airplanes and taking in the revenue for that, but still, I think they could help us. If not them, there are companies out there that could, help us with a smaller show. And we could start off small, you could have a fly-in and you could have, aerobatic, planes. And you could do that, have some good static displays. I know a lot of people, my time working air shows that would, that have a lot of connection with the military. We could have a lot of good static displays, military aircraft. And so we could still plan, to have a nice size show. But nothing as big as, what we had talked about.
Mike, do you think, is most of the interest for the air shows, the aerial as opposed to the static on the ground, the displays, or you got a great display on the ground? Does that kind of offset if we can't have the jets and still make it great?
That's sort of like a fly-in, right? You fly in and you kind of walk around the airplanes and look at them. But my experience was either one really works, but if you can have a good, if you could have, a good demonstration, up in the air, people love that. They really do. What are your thoughts on that? Both of them.
The only air show I've been to is Oshkosh, so it's kind of, when it comes to scale, I mean, it's.
Yeah.
It gets. And I haven't been to any fly-ins really yet. The biggest one around here is probably Triple Tree in the fall.
Where's that at?
It's, that over near Greenwood, South Carolina.
Oh, okay.
The guy over there's got a 7,000 foot long grass strip,
Yeah.
but it's like a fairway to Augusta National. I mean, it's not a normal grass strip. It's
Yeah.
got really nice setup.
Wow.
They do a flying every fall.
It's not like we're competing against other airports around necessarily. I mean, Athens folks haven't had an air show in a
Wow.
forever. It almost seems like any kind of air show is pretty good.
Yeah.
Brought about the same amount of interest, it looks like.
ADK has they call that a Friends Day? What do they call that one?
Yeah, something like that.
Every
Friends,
year.
PDK, something like that.
Yeah.
And I think, does Gainesville do one too, 4th of July, like a firecracker fly-in or something like that?
I don't know about them. Peachtree City.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that that's a pretty residential area.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
And I think they have to, tell those folks to go somewhere.
gosh.
Yeah. Tacoma has this thing for Halloween. You dress up, but it's a fly-in and also stack. Yeah, but I think we could work toward a smaller
Yeah.
show. And this year, my understanding is, there won't be any fireworks show here this year. They're gonna try to do it, they're gonna try to do it somewhere else.
Yeah.
But, this was good for them, for ACC, during the COVID, pandemic times, but, things have opened up now, so they want to try to get all the people together and mingle a little bit more.
Like, I don't know if it's worth up, but the ones I remember, the static ones that were the most attended that I was ever involved with were rotor wing craft.
Yes, yeah,
The military just fly those in, and I
yeah.
don't think you have the same restrictions from what
You
they're doing,
don't,
but you could bring,
the Ospreys could come in. We
it
had,
may not be the right one.
I know, yeah. We
But
had,
Blackhawks and
Blackhawks,
Chinooks and
yeah.
Apaches always were up there.
Yeah.
From the
Well,
Army.
look, see.
Mhm. Yeah, and Georgia, State Patrol would definitely, they do so,
Antique planes,
yeah.
yeah.
Think about it.
Like, does this actually, could it be good news in a way with, since I know you said the air show, providers are booked, but if we're not gonna have jets or limitations there, does it mean
That is
we could
good.
be scheduled possibly sooner or?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the military, yeah, you could schedule them a year in advance for like static. But these jet teams are like two plus years, at best, minimum 2 years. So, Yeah, it would definitely help. It's funny, I think I might have mentioned this a long time ago, but it was like a fly-in kind of thing, and I invited all the public to come out. And um, I just happened to call, I think it was a jet. There was a jet that was gonna come in to see their parents. And so we had all this public here, they just came to enjoy the static display. So next thing I knew, this jet called and I said, hey, can you do a couple of flybys? And he said, sure will. So he came in, and doing his thing, and then he landed. And then I saw the Goodyear blimp from a distance, and I said, hey, and he wasn't landing in Rome. He was just going to Atlanta. I said, do you mind flying by the airport and just kind of flying over it? And he said, no problem. And he came in and he dove down. I thought he was gonna crash. And then he came back up like that. And I said, man, for not having anything, and then all of a sudden that day, you've got a jet and a blimp. I said, this is great.
That was like the sloth and the cheetah, wasn't it?
It was.
Does that restriction kind of apply to the aerobatic teams like the Red Bull flights too, or is it?
There's a small aerobatic box that they have to go by.
Okay.
Like in Rome, we actually had an aerobatic box. I had a guy who, a lot like Robert is here, and he flew with some with Robert, the guy who's based here. But he was also well known, and he had an aerobatic. But anyway, he sat down with me and said, let's create an aerobatic box around the airport. So we did. And so we had that already in place, and it was active when they opened it up. But you can create a box and have it opened up anytime for these folks too. I know that Robert, he doesn't even need a box. Or he used to anyway. He'd just get in his plane and go up.
You just go south of the airport and you
Yeah.
can hear him.
Yeah.
Because you hear
Yeah.
can't see him, he's up there.
Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, there's ways around it, like for events, stuff like that, yeah.
So we're just gonna wait, you come back with.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do some talking. I'm gonna talk with some folks and see, maybe also get together, with the subcommittee and see what time of year would be good. And that would be a good set for me to say, okay, we're looking for something this time of year.
Mhm.
Starting off small is good too, because I don't know where you're gonna park these folks, it's kind of like, I don't know, so it's kind of new to me.
I think you said that, or something like this, that the airport, at the ACC government would not really have any out of pocket for this.
Yeah, no, they shouldn't, and then we gotta talk about, are we gonna charge for, admission or anything? I don't know, it's just something we can talk about, and come up with as well. I mean,
You do some kind of concessions or something.
Yeah, you can also, there's two ways you can do that. You can charge for them to be here, or you can, which is harder, you can say, okay, we want like 5% of your take or something, but then that's hard to kind of prove, but
Yeah.
But really, I guess the best way is, $500 is, you come here for that day, serve whatever.
Anything else on marketing and outreach?
You have anything, David? Anything marketing?
All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is under old business, the Lexington corridor.
Yeah, Deb, can you put that trail map up?
Yeah.
If you can rotate it as well. I know Devin sent this to you anyway. I won't keep you long on this. But I wanted you to have, this is what I mentioned last time, the 2018 conceptual trail map that was part of the 10 projects that were actually recommended for funding in the 2018 T-SPLOST. And then you remember they made us vote and come up with a shorter list, and so the trail idea kind of got cut off the list. But now it's been brought back up onto the radar, if you like, into the 2023 projects. And so you've got this map, and you're looking at it sideways, but I'm sure you can still see what you're looking at is actually the purple line around. Have we got a pointer that works this time? What is it about that screen? Yours works.
Oh, yeah. You want me to get mine?
No,
Because it was a TV screen that it would work on.
it's all right. I think you can see it. I've got, look here, I've got my low tech one. It works, but I can't reach. But, this is the map that Todd Miller put together for me and Mike when we were looking at the micro park, that little grove of trees. And then the idea of having a trail the whole way around the perimeter of the airport property. So you can see the purple line goes around the edges of both runways and then around the back. And on the way the map is showing now, if you look in the top left or the top right-hand corner, there's a pink line. That's the Firefly Trail that it could connect to. Yeah, there's the Firefly Trail there. And the purple trail around the airport is this line here. And then it also actually had a little connection to Satterfield Park. And so wouldn't it be nice? Or it could still be nice. I also gave you, even though, you know, if you care to look at it, I gave you the executive summary of the whole pond report on the road safety study. And in that, you'll see that the multi-use trail is on the list, like a wish list. But we're talking about, you know, 1 to 3 million for it, and who knows when it'll ever see the light of day. But I wanted you just for the record to see that's what Mike and I pushed hard for. And there was actually, I'm trying to get my bearings here. Where's the micro park on this? It's there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that there was also the potential to have a tiny little connection to the micro park. The interesting thing is that it always amazes me the cost of these trails, $1 million a mile, you know. But also that there are 3 different kinds of trail. Todd Miller talked to us about the fact you know, like the Firefly, I mean, it's an expensive, hard trail with a substratum underneath, and it's rock hard. And he admitted that most walkers and joggers don't like those because they're jolly hard on your feet and your legs, and that there's actually a sort of a lesser hard trail form, much cheaper, that they'll put up in some places. And then you remember he talked to us about even an informal trail where you could literally, you know, cut down the grass to almost to ground level, where you could make like an informal trail, or have it like in the botanical garden where it's just a graded path with bark or something on it. So who knows what's going to happen? But you know, that was the idea of having a trail the whole way around the airport. Now, Mike has also talked about the fact, you know, with all this nice shiny new fencing, you have a potential there to have one of those mown trails just around where the fencing is. And probably the most you would need there is a sign saying trail, feel free to walk,
Yeah,
you know.
keep the deer away.
So if you guys have got any input, we're having a meeting on the 14th, which is next week, when the group is supposed to give input on the idea of the trails or on the list of the projects or anything else. And you remember, Craig, you mentioned you saw one of those phantom traffic lights on the first map. That's going in the feedback. Remember the map I gave you last time? And then the idea of the trails, you know, I think probably just to reinforce that they should stay back on the radar now that they've been put back on the radar. And that, you know, I don't know, the one thing I always come back to as well is the fact that they still, if you look at that report, what's interesting is they still have no data on pedestrians. The only hard data they have on pedestrians is if there was an accident on Lexington and the pedestrian was involved, because then the police got involved. But they did talk about the fact there are ways of actually gauging how, you know, at a given place, like one of the main intersections or a crossing like where the jail is or the diversion center, and at a peak period, how many pedestrians? I'm talking real bodies on the ground.
Yeah.
Because if it was 10, you'd say, okay, fine. If it was 100 or 500 people, you know, the nature of the project or the need for it would be seen differently. And there are ways to do it. You know, there's several ways they could do it with GPS data and cell phone pings. They can also put trap cameras on the bus stops if they really wanted to. They do it to track wildlife. They could do it to track pedestrians. So if, you know, I don't know if you guys have got any comments, particularly about the trail, or anything else, I'll be happy to pass them on.
I don't know if this is germane to the trail piece, but when does the quarry turn over to the county?
They ready on?
Yeah, they bought it. It's theirs already, but it's,
Is it already active? I mean, with the, are they still?
It's a lease we have with them, so they're gonna continue to dig over the next, I don't want to do the wrong number, call it next decade or whatever. And then right now, we're trying to work on another pit, if you will, for them to continue digging, so the hole will get bigger. And I'm not giving you the technical term, but to create a bigger hole, for the future for our water store.
but they had the plan, Nikki, didn't they, to sort of make it like a park area where they would have the water storage, which is also a body of water that could be part of
Yeah,
recreation.
that's right. So it's fascinating because, on Thanksgiving vacation, I sent Blaine a picture from a park that we were visiting in Winston-Salem
Yeah,
called Quarry Park.
yeah,
So they used the water
yeah,
as storage for the city,
yeah,
but they've created a park around it. So
Yeah.
we've talked about something similar, in the sense that, yes, a trail around,
yeah,
but I'm sure there's all sorts of liability stuff that we have to think through and all that stuff. And the fact that it's so close to the airport.
Yeah,
I don't know, they'll be worried about waterfowl. But, you know, where it is,
there you go. You got it on now.
there's the quarry there. I mean, yeah, there are parks like that all over and in other countries where there's a body of water and, you know, greenery around it and the like. And I thought they talked about that when they first bought the quarry. They had that in the announcements. But you can see that it would actually, you know, fit in with the idea of having a trail. Fireflies right there, the quarry sandwiched between the Firefly Trail and the airport. It would make sense, you know,
Yeah.
if they want to.
Not even, it was, as far as with trails, if you go with a soft type or grass, then I guess that's gonna exclude bikers, correct?
Yeah, that's why the multi-use trails are so expensive because of that harder surface.
Right.
But, you know, I mean, I guess one thing to argue would be you don't have to have a multi-use trail the whole way around. What Todd talked to me and Mike about, you remember, was that some of that trail could be one of those informal, cheaper trails, but then have the main trail that's causing the connectivity to be a multi-use trail.
So that potentially, I don't know who will, but just sort of who knows what, as far as people are gonna be moving around with wheel or whatever would be allowed, but you're
Yeah.
thinking at least the connectivity to the airport, the area here?
Yeah, or
From
also
downtown?
to Satterfield and to the
Okay,
Lexington,
yeah.
you know, downtown. They're always going on about wanting to have all of that connected forward to downtown. But I think on the backside of the airport, like edging towards the quarry, you could have one of those more informal trails, you know. Who knows? It's
Yeah.
gonna be up to them, but I'm just glad it's back on the radar.
Right, yeah.
Because that map had been forgotten, you know, and people were talking about it in this group of consultants, these pond associates. They were acting like there'd never been any mention of a trail, which is why I promised to send them this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pond. At least it's not arson.
I would have been on Andrew's case.
You should have been, but, so, but it's a pond, I can't speak for them, so.
So I don't know if you've got any ideas about it, but I mean, it's obvious that, you know, the sidewalk gaps and the maintenance and repair of the sidewalks are the priority for all that money, which is, you know, millions upon millions. And the trails are a lesser priority. And I don't think anybody's, you know, objecting to that, but it's more a question of saying with their whole bike ped master plan, you know, if you could also see moving the trail idea in various forms forward. That's what I would hope to see. So,
I will say this too, touched a little bit, on the water and fowl and stuff. When this was first, brought to me several years ago, probably 4 years ago, before the county, had gotten, I was asked to go to the FAA and find out if there's any issues with, water being there. They said basically no, we just have to, we have a wildlife plan. We'd have to put that on a wildlife plan that we're doing this or that. And also to have a boat, of some sort, for rescue. It doesn't have to be anything big. It's a John boat, maybe a cutty cruiser or something like that I could use.
but,
Yeah. Swim out there quicker than you can get a boat.
Yeah.
But just that, and then, that's about it, really. That's all I said for that.
So, well, between now and next week, if you think of anything else, shoot me a note. But for now, let's just hope, that the idea of the trails is kept alive, I think.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
I will look
Thank
forward
you.
to an update on that one in January.
Yeah. Okay.
Nothing under new business. Item 6, standing committees, business and finance.
the only thing we'll have, would be, for our January meeting is our time for our quarterly review of our strategic plan, doing stance, status and so forth. 23rd.
All right. Okay. Operating committee.
What Mike was referring to earlier, I think we spoke about it a meeting or two ago that Hannah has taken under her wing the revamping of the hangar wait list and prioritizing applicants on the wait list and how we can move through all of those. We went through a draft, phenomenal job. We then met a couple weeks ago and reviewed her final document that will go for publication January, first of the year, I think. So revamping the list, publicizing more readily the list so everybody will know where they stand, and hopefully we'll keep the list at a minimum moving forward, getting people hangers.
The list has dwindled down a good bit. She's done a good job.
Yeah, she, one of the first things she did was just getting in touch with the 3 dozen people or so on there, dwindled it down to somewhere in the teens. And now as we move into this new priority system, I think we all suspect that it's going to.
There have been quite a few folks who have balked at the $25 fee.
Yeah. So one of the ways that we were
Perfect.
that's the idea. The old system was hardly more complex than keeping it on the back of a cocktail napkin. The new system has a whole priority based, who gets what call for what hangar based on, what qualifications they already made. But some of the people on the old list, legacy list, didn't even have aircraft to put in these hangars. They just wanted spot net hangars to then buy an airplane. So one of the ways of combating just an ever growing list was to add a nominal $25 application fee, which we figured is not substantial enough when we're talking about airplanes to make anybody serious go away, but anybody who's just taking up space on the list will probably.
Seems to work.
Interesting.
That was the point. Make the management moving forward.
You all have done a great job. I know Hannah's done a good job. I said this to you and I appreciate it too, and you for helping Davin too. I mean,
Make sure Hannah is.
it's definitely down. We let her know.
She did all the research, she did all the writing, as far as I understand,
Spent a lot of time on
and
it.
came in and presented something complete to us, what we went through and made edits to or.
Appreciate you.
So,
We need to do that for a long time.
yeah.
We have a plan for keeping it up, right? All right, item C, Air Service Development Marketing Committee report from the last committee meeting.
Yeah, I think I mentioned to you in our last meeting that we were thinking that before we started working with the larger Air Service Development Committee with people from other departments and elsewhere, which was 15 people on that, in that
Yeah.
group?
Especially Paul Kramer and David.
Yeah, that it might be a good idea to have a small, more focused meeting to begin with, get our ducks in line, as you put it, before we started working with them. So we did last week have a very long was 2 hour meeting, very intense. Keith met, with us, Grant, myself, Davin, and our boss. Mike.
What's that?
And actually, it turned out, I think everybody agreed it was a very useful experience. You know, we spent an intense 2 hours talking very openly and honestly, asking lots of questions of Mike, in particular, who then got to tell us lots of things that taught us lots of things. But, you know, we asked Mike about all of the ins and outs of the alternatives regarding different carriers. We asked him about the alternative destinations, Charlotte and others. We talked at length, or you did, with a lot of our questions and observations thrown in about the policy angle, the FAA, you know, and other angles. Batteries running low. We also asked Mike about, you know, if you like, the sort of local political climate and, you know, issues related to governance and leadership in ACC that would have some impact on the whole endeavor. So it was a lot of learning that I think we really needed to. We also needed to ask Mike for insight in what certain people on the larger committee would be expected to bring to the enterprise. You know, if you're talking about the Classic Center and you're talking about economic development and some of these other entities, what's the expectation for what they're going to bring, you know, aside from being on a committee? So it was a very valuable, I think, learning experience. We also did talk about, you know, it would be nice under ideal conditions to gather information about what the real potential demand is in the community among different stakeholders and groups. But those are right now, that's just sort of a big question because there are lots of logistical factors involved in, you know, how that might actually play out. So that remains sort of a question. But I think to kick off the whole enterprise, it was really useful. You know, I think you guys agreed that we learned a lot, you know, and we thank you for all of your answering questions and then listening to all of our devil's advocate questions
I love it.
as well.
I love it.
And so we agreed to meet again in January when Mike expects to have some other information that I think would answer some of the questions that we had, and then take it from there. So I think it was a good exercise.
Very worthwhile meeting.
And
I'm excited for the future meetings too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good questions from all of you that you all needed to know,
yeah,
learn.
yeah,
Things are changing all the time too.
yeah.
And, you know, so it was good. I really liked that meeting. I appreciate you all.
And then you said that because you've got meetings coming up in February or March
Yeah.
with the different airlines, and so it was necessary for us to, you know, to get a sort of a broad orientation on just what you're facing and how you want to arm yourself
Right.
going to those meetings. In light of the presentations, you know, that Doug Blissett gave.
Because it's no secret. I mean, you know, we have the SCASD grant. It's no secret that, you know, American had, you know, they were the airline that put their name in for that SCASD grant and helped us out, you know, with that. And destination was Charlotte. You know, if we do go with another airline, you know, what destination do they want? You know, how easy is it, like we're talking about, to change that with the USDOT? But the thing is, when I go February, that's one of the questions, you know, with Americans, you know, we've got 3 more years probably on this grant, you know, and how serious are you folks, you know, because if you're not, we'll move on, you know, and I can say it, but there's other airlines we need to have some doors with. So that's one thing we can talk about.
Yeah. So we need to know, I mean, as an authority and as a committee within it, I mean, we need to know how specifically we can be useful. So, you know, there's also quite a lot of learning to be done. There's nobody, you know, on the authority that knows everything as much as you do, you know.
Well, I'm learning every day, but I really did like that subcommittee. I enjoyed it. I really did. I enjoyed answering the questions. And yeah, if anybody has any questions about moving forward on ASD, where we're going, because I don't want it to be a secret. Some things we can't tell, you know, as things progress, and you know, we do talk to some airlines. But you know, in time, you know, we can divulge some of that. But Yeah, right now, it's a work in progress, and like I said, that the airlines right now are starting to wake up, they're coming out of hibernation, and I think it's, like with American, when I go February, they'll probably say the same thing, it's probably gonna be a year and a half before, the airlines start seeing some progress with the pilot shortage and whatnot. I think it was 2 years last year, but they keep bumping it up.
So if we have the next authority meeting on the 23rd, maybe we should shoot for another committee meeting before that. If you have
Yeah.
more information so that we can then report at the next meeting.
I
Okay,
will have some more information about
Yeah.
it too.
so let's shoot for that then, maybe early January.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Okay.
Mike, just quick question, from what you just said, as far as say it's a year and a half out for a lot of airlines to make a move. Roughly, once there is a deal, hopefully, roughly what kind of time before they can start in business at an airport?
Well, I've talked to TSA and they'd have to set up. They'd have to get all their folks here. We'd have to do a safety plan, or update it anyway. Because we already have one, but it's old. But in talking to TSA, they say we can't do anything until we have an airline, to plug the names in and all that before I can actually send it to them.
Yeah,
And so we have to have that in place. And then just logistics, we do have baggage handling, we have all of that. One thing, when I do talk to airlines, they ask me, do we have, baggage carts? I don't. We have carts, but they're small, but we have handled, 737s with just 2 carts on the back of a golf cart, so it works well for us. And then the lab service, we don't have a lab service. We do have lab service, but it's for the corporate jets. So it's not a huge thing. So we don't have a big lab service. And I probably won't get into that. I'll let them handle that probably. So there's things that, we have to sit down and say, okay, we're not gonna do this. Do you have this? We don't have baggage carts. Can you supply us with some? Because they're pricey. Those baggage carts are pricey. And I'm sure you get some used ones somewhere, but and really,
Has a bunch of them that you might be able to salvage and restore.
who does?
Hartsfield.
Oh, Hartsfield? Yeah.
Yeah,
I know Beaver.
yeah, you could probably get some.
Now, does the airline own them? Or does?
They have some that I know that you would have to do some maintenance on, that they just
Okay.
move around all over the place, that they just have stored like, almost like a bag cart graveyard.
Really?
Rip
Yeah.
parts off for other carts as everybody uses.
Probably, yeah,
Okay,
probably.
well, that's good. I'll have to check that out.
I tend to make 5 good ones out of them.
Yeah, you probably, that's probably what it would be.
Does the airlines ask you about parking? Or what you have is parking here
You mean-
available?
This kind of parking?
Well, yeah, in terms of whether they're
Yeah,
interested or
they
not.
have mentioned that in the past. I would say probably 2, 3 years ago.
Mm.
I always bring it up, that we're working on parking because they're not dumb. They look at all the aspects of
Yeah.
it. They look at parking. So I kind of get ahead of that a little bit, but that's something that we're working on now.
Mhm.
Come the new year, I think what do we have on our CIP design? And yeah, design for a parking. Yep. And then hopefully construction. Yeah. So,
Is this area still the final area where the tower is?
so far it's number 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
So potentially we'd lose some possible parking.
Yeah.
Yeah, we will. And then the parking area that we're talking about is actually just connected to what we have existing out there. It'll just go further into the field.
You're still closer than Hartsfield.
Yes, yeah.
And a lot less onerous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to fly out of Albany all the time when I was in the military. Man, I loved it. Like, park my car, 2 minutes to the terminal,
Really? That's
check
nice.
my bag right before we go on the airplane.
Greenville's like that too.
Yeah.
Are they? I have never been to the Greenville.
And, yeah, it's just, and the headaches of flying in and out of there are so much fewer than like.
That's the way this would be. It'd be nice. Yeah.
All right. Diane, anything else from?
No, that's
Very
it,
good.
thank you.
All right, is there any other business? Well, I think as we gather again in January, we'll look at 2023 in the rearview mirror, so that's hard to believe, but been a great year. Mike Davin, thanks for all you've done to help us get into the meetings and understanding through the year. Thank you all for what you've done. So we'll come together next in January. We'll have our agenda, but we'll hear from Keith in the quarterly strategic meeting. We'll hear from Dave and Diane, both in the operations and air service development subcommittees, and then we'll have a ratification election of chair, vice chair in January. So we will, barring an unforeseen emergency, we won't gather again until then. So hopefully we won't need to do that. Hope everybody has a great holiday and relax and enjoy. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
we'll take that as we're adjourned. Have a great holiday. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Or late 20 over.
I know.